Looks like we are now streaming live on Facebook.
All right, I think, okay, it's redirecting. So we're going to wing this a little bit, guys. All right. There we go. All right. I think there is a little bit of a delay. So there we go. Welcome, everybody. This is Walli Miller. She's my co-host.
Hi, everyone.
I'm Roxanne Langley, and this is Without Fear, Her Financial Future. Walli?
Hi, so welcome everyone to this Accountable Live event. Accountable is a network of the most respected money coaches, and these events are a totally free resource for you to get to know us. Today, this is all about women and her money and how to feel safer and more secure. We're going to be discussing how to survive through a financial crisis. And if you've ever attended any of these events, they can include topics on business, personal finance, and we even have workshops on how to get out of debt and just thrive. We'll put a link in the chat later if you have any questions and where you can find some additional sessions. Now, we are financial coaches. We don't sell insurance, we don't sell investments, we don't sell debt products or provide any type of legal advice. This is for educational and hopefully entertainment purposes only.
We try to entertain.
We try. So Roxanne will be leading us and teaching us today, and it's all yours.
Okay. Like Walli was saying, this is information that we can start as women, really as anybody, but specifically for women, we can start using today, right this minute, to help protect our financial future and even more importantly, our legacy, your family's legacy. On any given day, as women, we keep our plates very full. And for the most part, they're overflowing off the sides and spilling off onto the floor. Unfortunately, all it takes is one little bump in the road, and suddenly we find ourselves risking perhaps years of hard work. Put us in the middle of an emotional event, a divorce, a family death, anything like that, and we are especially vulnerable. We start making decisions from panic mode instead of cool-headed and calculated and really making decisions that are in our better interest. The eye-opening statistic that I ran across at a retirement venue about a month or so ago was that 90% of all women will oversee the family finances either by choice or not. They don't have a choice. That's huge. I mean, basically, ladies, we're it, and it may be that that's where you're at right now. But if not, the odds are that you will be. So in that same study that I was reading, actually only 20% of the women feel confident enough to take on the family finances and figure out and make those decisions, and be okay with it. So one of my goals is to close this gap between that 20%, that I'm confident, to 90% of us running everything. Becoming more informed about your money and your overall financial health and your financial house is paramount. And it's actually something that we can all do. It may take a little work, but we can get there. So we have a few tips. The first one, and this is something that Walli and I both, we will harp on you about this, is have an emergency fund. This is something that when you have an emergency fund, the most important tool that you have is the job that it does. Think of it as self-insurance or risk management. because the number one job that your emergency fund has to do is to be that buffer between you and life. You know, whenever, and it's not a matter of when or if, but when. Typically, you know, it's something like this, and this was something that played out in my life this summer. I was going into a holiday weekend. Everything was good. July, hot, and the AC decided to start blowing about 90 degrees inside instead of 74. So you know, you kind of get the picture, and Texas and summer don't mix. So not without an AC. So you make some telephone calls, you finally get somebody here, and the parts are actually covered under the warranty. That's great. How much is the labor? It was a little over $1,500. So, you know, what do? You reach for a credit card that may already be maxed out or close to it, and you know, think, well, I'll deal with it tomorrow and figure it out next month. Or you write a check out of the emergency fund, you pay it, and you go on with the weekend. You know, it turns it from being an oh crap minute to, okay, I may not like having to spend the money, but I have it and that's what it's for. So it puts that buffer between you. You know, this is where it really comes in handy. You know, if your income stops from a job loss, then it acts as a buffer in there too. And it gets you through the next few months, hopefully only a few months before, you know, and again, you're not operating from panic. Now, one of the things that we're asked is, how much should we have? So your emergency fund, I typically like to recommend for it to be around 6 months of your basic living expenses. More if you can, but I recommend setting that goal, you know, that initial goal of 6 months. Now, this may change depending on your situation. You know, are you a one income or a two income household? Salaried, or are you in a sales position where you have an irregular income and it fluctuates? So, as coaches, we look at that and we take this into account to help you come up with the figure that you need for your monthly living expenses. Now, the most important are your four walls, the basics, your home, transportation, utilities, and food. So all these items that fall under the four categories are your basic living expenses that you pay every month, come rain or shine, job or no job. Those are ones that show up. Now, if you have debt from credit cards, a car loan or a student loan, anything like that, you want to list these out separately with what the minimum payment is. Not necessarily the balance, but if you have a $25 minimum payment, you want to set that over to the side and write that down. Now, I'm going to screen share something here. Tell me if you can see it, hopefully. And it may, since we're live on Facebook, this may not work with the screen share. Doesn't look like it does.
I can see it over here on Zoom.
Can you? Okay, good, thanks. So this will give you an idea of how much in the emergency fund that you have. You can see in the example that for 6 months, you should have a little over 15,000. Now, the important part to look at on this is determining what you need saved for your situation. Now, yeah, think about how comfortable, how less stressful, and how peaceful would you feel if you had somewhere in the neighborhood of, say, 12 to 15,000 setting in an emergency fund just in case for when the AC goes out, or oh gosh, storm damage on the house or an auto wreck, anything like that. You have that setting aside, and You don't, you don't worry quite as much. All right, let me, now I will stop sharing. There we go. All right, we're back. So when you have that emergency fund, you know, that $1,500 repair bill literally becomes just kind of blip on the screen. You know, you may need to stop eating out, or you may need to trim the premium internet package down to a basic, but you know, you have that option available to you. Your emergency fund should be held, I typically say, in a money market account or a high yield savings account. You're not going to earn a lot of, you know, interest or income off of it, but remember, it's for emergencies. It's not for investments. It's not to build your investment portfolio up with. It's strictly, its job is to be a buffer. Now, the idea is you want to have access to it within about 48 hours if needed, but don't have it so accessible that during a month, you know, the Nordstrom's yearly anniversary sale, it's a little easy to transfer some of it over. So work on, you know, if you have any questions about what your situation is for an emergency fund balance, reach out to either one of us, drop a comment below, and we'll get back with you and help you figure that out. Now, tip number 2 is becoming debt-free. The fastest way to save money is by lowering your monthly bills. On average, the typical person spends around $800 a month just in consumer debt payments. That doesn't include the mortgage. You know, if you took that $800, look at how fast your accounts grow. In 1 year, that's $9,600 before any interest, before any dividends, before any investment, you know, that you could do with it. You know, that's a great start to your emergency fund. You could max out your retirement contributions for the year, pay extra principal on a mortgage if that's the case, but it really adds up quickly. So that would, now think about, what would you do if you had an extra $800 a month? Where would you put it? You know, it really makes you wonder what, you know, and all the possibilities that you could use it for. Now, tip number 3. Well, wait a minute. Okay, Wally, what would you do with that extra money?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think, this was something that happened with me. I wanted to increase my savings and I wanted to increase my wealth building. And I had basically cut as much of my expenses as I possibly could. But what I still had were those debt payments. And as soon as I was able to pay off my car note and my student loans, that extra money that was going towards debt, I was then able to increase the cushion, that safety net of that emergency fund, as well as begin wealth building. And one thing that I wanted to add regarding the emergency fund is, if 2020 taught us anything, was that anything can happen. And a job that you think is secure may not be as secure as we once thought. And one additional thing is, wouldn't it be nice that if you had a family member, a relative, a loved one that needed your help, that you would be able to say, I need to take a sabbatical. I need to take a couple of weeks and take care of my loved one without worrying about being able to pay your bills. So these are all fantastic reasons to have an emergency fund and really also focus on getting rid as much debt as possible.
No, that is a great point, and something true, because we all, I mean, especially as women, we want to help, and that is always something that, we always, or I used to always say, well, if I had enough money or if I didn't have to do this, then I could. So, yeah, great point. Now, tip number 3 is, and some people say, well, it's very basic, is open a retirement account. But actually, you would be surprised at how many people don't have one or have just, maybe they have one and there's a couple of $100 in it. You know, while Wally and I are not financial advisors or planners, so consult them about your contributions and, opening up the right account. But know this, it is never too late to begin. And I speak from experience on this side. I had a small IRA after my divorce. I was barely buying groceries. There was no way I was going to be able to save money and put into retirement. So it was, if I remember, I think maybe I had around $4,000 in there, and I was 42 years of age at that point. That's not, I mean, that wasn't even an emergency fund. It was bare. So get started. Your 2020 maximum yearly contributions is $6,000. Over the age of 50, it's 7,000. Just start socking away 25, 50, $100 every paycheck, whatever you can afford. Just start. I typically will recommend to people to at least look into the Roth IRAs. One of the beauties of a Roth is after the age of 59 and a half, the funds that you withdraw so far, according to the latest taxes and the way things go, those funds will be withdrawn tax-free, which means, if you pull out, say, $3,000 to live on for the month, that's $3,000 tax-free. You will not have to report it. If you have a 401k or a 403b, the same thing. Check with your employer and see if they offer a Roth version. I know I run across this quite a bit. If you are no longer with a company where you had a 401k or with previously, talk to your current financial advisor or planner and find out if you can have that pulled in so that you can have it rolled over and you guys take care of it instead of whoever you used to work for. And it's amazing at how many people forget that they have that retirement money sitting there. And sometimes it's several employers. Now, tip number 4 is, it's one of those things we know we should do, but we put it off. It's kind of like this thing of, well, if I don't think about it, it's not going to happen. So, and that is setting up your will, medical power of attorney. If you have children, guardianship papers, having all these legal papers set aside, that protects your financial future for your children, for a sibling, anybody in your family. The reality is that it is actually, while we think of it as depressing, it's actually one of the most loving things that we can do. As a single woman, it is even more important. Siblings, grown children, parents, who has the legal responsibility if you're unable to make decisions or if you're gone? The last thing you want to have is the family members fighting in court and tying up attorneys. If you have underage children, who will take care of them? And most importantly also is to protect your assets for them until they become of age. There are several avenues you can take. I always recommend speaking with a family attorney in your city and county, from state to state, and many times across the state, from city or county to the next. There can be some different rules and forms or form numbers that you need. You can try and you can go the do-it-yourself route online, but many times, speak with an attorney first. A lot of times it's not really expensive as you think. Mine is fairly simple, but it ran me around I think it was like 500, and it was not quite $600 for everything that I needed. The will, the medical power of attorney, everything is there. Nobody has to guess. So just one of the other things too is be sure and include things like do you have particular items that you want them to go to specific children or to charities or a sibling? One area that we often overlook is who's going to take care of my pets. This is something we don't think about. We think about our children. We don't always think about our pets. What happens with my online presence? Put a letter of instruction along with your will or with the rest of your legal papers, with little things like that, and it makes it so much easier for the family. Now, at the same time as you're preparing the will, most people will set up their living will and medical power of attorney documents. This gives your appointed individual the power to make medical decisions on your behalf if you're unable to. Also, if you have small children or if you have a special needs grown-up, have your guardianship forms. These are state specific for the legal responsibilities for parenting and taking care of, such as like a special needs grown-up to another person. Something else too is take the time to decide and talk to your prospective guardians. Interview them. Don't assume that if you were to pass suddenly, the kids will go live with your brother's family. You may not want them with your brother's family. You may want them with maybe their grandparents or your sister's family, but just talk it out and discuss and make sure that their values are the same as yours, and then put it in writing. Now, tip number 5 is one of those lengthy things to do, and it's just make a list. This is something that right now, especially now, the internet, we have the world at our fingertips. And think about how many user IDs and passwords that we all have. It's used to be years ago, you had maybe 2 passwords. And then they started adding. You had to add numbers or you had to add special characters. And so all the different passwords, maybe as many user IDs. Start basic. Compile a list of your financial accounts especially. Make 2 copies. Place each of these sets of copies in a couple of large envelopes and put one of the envelopes in your home safe and put the other envelope either at the bank in the safe deposit box, or in my case, I have a set at my mother's house. So they're in 2 different locations. Your online accounts that you use on a regular basis. Hello, Amazon. Businesses that you do regular online transactions that have user IDs, that have passwords. They also have how many credit card numbers or your debit card numbers on these sites. So make a list of, like Amazon, the user ID, the password. That's all you need, just so that if something happens, a member of your family can get in there. They can delete this information out. It's not floating out there until, granted, the credit cards and debit cards will eventually expire. But in the meantime, it gets them out of circulation, so to speak. The other thing you want to do is your social media accounts. You know, make it easy for your family members to go in and delete or deactivate your account. Um, we all want to live forever, but do we want to really live forever on Facebook and Instagram? Last but not least, and this is your homework for the week, is grab your wallet and either go to the copier, the scanner, or if you want to take photographs with your phone, copy both sides of all of your information in your wallet. Pull your credit card, your debit card, your driver's license. Some people carry their social security cards around. Any medical or dental insurance cards, anything that you carry in your purse or your husband's wallet that you carry on a regular basis, dump it all out, copy both sides. And then along with the will and your other legal papers, put a copy of those in both locations. At some point, if something should ever happen at the house, or like at the holidays, when unfortunately, when we're out shopping, if our purse is stolen, you have a copy of everything. And pull those copies, start calling the credit card, start calling whoever, getting online, freeze the accounts, and hopefully you'll have all the information right there and it will make it so much easier. So that's, Wally, would you like to add anything to any more tips or homework we can give them?
The only other thing that I could think about, along with some of those really important documents, is to check your beneficiaries for all of your accounts.
Mhm.
You might think that if you automatically pass away, it would go to a parent or your spouse or your loved one. But there's a lot of red tape there. They want to make sure that actually you're entitled to it. So you want to make sure that you check the beneficiaries for all of your accounts, your checking, savings, retirement accounts, each and every one of those accounts, just update those.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And you don't always, you always assume, and unfortunately it can, financially, it can really cost a lot of us to assume. But yeah, hi Rosa. Well, I hope everybody got some good information on everything. Thank you for joining us and joining in on our little Facebook Live, that we decided to hop on and try this out. We're doing this a little different tonight and see what kind of reactions we get and get this message out to everybody that we can think of. So, anything else that, Rosa, I know you were listening earlier. Is there any questions or anything that you might have for us, or?
I'm sorry, not at this moment, because then I lost the connection because I was driving and I was, I'm sorry for that. Probably I'm gonna watch live and then come to your next presentation or something. Then I will ask more questions, but whatever what you're doing is very important for everybody, for information and also for people that are going through divorce or things like that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, that pretty much wraps us up for tonight. Unless you can think of something.
You okay? No.
Oh, go ahead, Rosa. We're good.
The thing was that, for example, I found a lady that I met before, and she just told me in her case she's just starting the process
Just
yes.
starting the process of divorce or just
Y-
starting the,
Yes,
okay, yeah,
divorce. Yes.
yeah. Well, and at this point, she is, if she has consulted or has hired an attorney, yeah, she's going to be neck deep in it for a little while.
Probably. I didn't have the chance to talk too much. She was with her daughter. So we're gonna talk tomorrow or something like that. But
Good.
she was
Good.
just not feeling good, and I understand why.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
It's when you're in that roller coaster, when you're in that emotional roller coaster, and some days it takes you all the way down to the very bottom of the pit. And when it comes, then you throw in, having to make decisions with your money. It's very challenging to just even feel halfway confident that you understand what you need to sign or what you need to spend, or so she has a road in front of her, unfortunately, one that's not always easy to navigate. Well, it's never easy to navigate.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
well, we'll have to keep. We'll keep in contact with her.
Yeah, definitely. I will do that. And I just text her.
Oh, good.
Well,
Good.
I'm praying for her highest good and best outcome, things like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So thank you everyone out there in Facebook Live land for joining us tonight. And I will tweak this presentation a little bit, and we'll be back to do it again next month. So stay tuned for the announcement. Well, Wally, thank you so much for helping tonight and kind of rolling with the punches when we changed it up a little bit there.
Absolutely. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Great info.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, and good night.